In 1930, the great economist John Maynard Keynes looked to the future and made a startling prediction. He envisioned a world, just a century away, where technological progress would be so profound, so transformative, that it would effectively solve the economic problem. He imagined that by the year 2030, humanity would be freed from the necessity of long, arduous labor. His forecast was a 15-hour work week, just 15 hours. The rest of our time, he believed, would be ours to fill with the finer things in life: leisure, art, community, and personal growth. It was a beautiful, optimistic dream of a future where machines did the heavy lifting, and we, as a species, could finally breathe. But as we stand on the cusp of that very future, we must ask ourselves, what happened to that dream? That world he imagined, it never arrived. If you look at the data, one side of Keynes's prediction was spectacularly correct. From the 1930s to today, productivity has not just climbed, it has skyrocketed. The efficiency with which we produce goods and services is something our great-grandparents could scarcely have imagined. From automated factory lines to the digital revolution, the power of our technology has grown exponentially. We can achieve in an hour what once took a full day, or even a week. The charts tell a clear story of unprecedented growth, a relentless upward curve of output per hour. Logically, this explosion in productivity should have translated directly into a dramatic decrease in working hours, but it didn't. Productivity has skyrocketed, but our free time hasn't. So where did all that extra productivity go? Why are we still working roughly the same 40-hour week that was standard a century ago? The answer is complex and multi-layered. Part of it is simple economics. We didn't just choose more leisure, we chose more stuff. As society became richer, our desires expanded. A car, once a luxury, became a necessity. A single-family home, a television in every room, yearly vacations, the latest smartphones, our definition of a good life grew in lockstep with our ability to produce. We created a consumer culture that constantly dangles new wants before our eyes, fueling a cycle of work and spend that keeps the economic engine humming. The promise of free time was traded, bit by bit, for a higher material standard of living. Another monumental shift happened along the way. The structure of our society and our workforce transformed completely. After World War II, and particularly from the 1960s onward, millions of women entered the paid workforce. This was a profound social revolution, expanding economies, reshaping families, and challenging traditional gender roles. The dual-income household became increasingly common, not just as a choice but often as a necessity to afford the modern lifestyle we come to expect. This influx of labor further boosted economic growth, but it also normalized a new standard where households relied on 2 full-time jobs, embedding the 40-hour week even more deeply into our cultural fabric. We built a system that, in many ways, now requires more work, not less, to maintain its own momentum. And then there's a deeper, more psychological reason. For many of us, work has become more than just a means to an end. It's no longer just about survival, about putting food on the table. In a world where traditional sources of meaning, like community and religion, have waned for some, work has stepped in to fill the void. It has become a primary source of our identity. When someone asks, "What do you do?" they're not just asking how you make money. They're asking who you are. We find pride in our professions, a sense of purpose in our projects, and a community among our colleagues. The teacher shaping young minds, the nurse providing care, the engineer solving complex problems, the designer creating beauty. These roles give us a sense of belonging and self-worth that can be profoundly fulfilling. This search for meaning through work has created a paradox. The very thing that was meant to be a simple transaction, our time for money, has become entangled with our deepest sense of self. This has given rise to what some call workism, the belief that work is not only the path to economic production, but also the centerpiece of one's life and identity. In this culture, long hours aren't just tolerated. They're often celebrated as a sign of dedication and ambition. We see it in the startup founder who pulls all-nighters, the lawyer billing hundreds of hours, the gig worker juggling multiple jobs. Being busy has become a status symbol, a way of signaling our importance. We wear our exhaustion like a badge of honor. The technology that was supposed to liberate us has, in many ways, tethered us more tightly to our jobs. The smartphone in your pocket is also a portable office. It buzzes with emails late at night, pings with notifications on weekends, and keeps us mentally clocked in even when we're physically far from our desks. The lines between work and life have blurred into a perpetual state of being on call. The dream of a world of rest has been replaced by a reality of constant motion, a culture of endless work. We see the lights of office towers burning late into the night, delivery riders crisscrossing the city at all hours, and the faint glow of a laptop screen in a darkened bedroom. We have built an incredibly productive world, but we have forgotten how to be idle. So, why do we keep working so hard? The answer isn't a single villain or a grand conspiracy. It's a web of interconnected forces, our own escalating desires, the economic structures we've built, and our deep human need for purpose and identity. We are caught between the economic necessity to work and the psychological fulfillment we derive from it. We are running on a treadmill of our own making, chasing a horizon of enough that seems to recede as we approach it. We've become so accustomed to the rhythm of constant activity that the idea of genuine, unstructured leisure can feel alien, even stressful. Keynes imagined a future where we would have to learn how to live wisely, agreeably, and well. He worried we might suffer a kind of collective nervous breakdown if we were suddenly freed from the routine of labor. Perhaps his biggest miscalculation wasn't about technology, but about human nature. He underestimated our capacity to invent new work for ourselves and our deep-seated desire to feel needed. He saw the end of work as a problem of distribution, how to share the wealth and the leisure, but it turns out to be a problem of meaning. If not work, then what? It's a question we haven't yet answered. We have the technological capability for a 15-hour work week, or something very close to it. The tools are there. But the cultural and psychological shift required to embrace it is a far greater challenge. It would require us to redefine our values, to separate our self-worth from our professional output, and to find meaning in community, creativity, and simple existence. Looking ahead, we stand at a crossroads. The rise of artificial intelligence and even more advanced automation brings Keynes's prediction back into sharp focus. This time, the displacement of labor could be on a scale we've never seen before. We will be forced to confront these questions again, not as a philosophical exercise but as a practical necessity. Will we use this next wave of technology to further enrich a few and intensify the work of the rest? Or will we finally decide to collectively cash in on the productivity dividend we've been accumulating for over a century? The dream of a world with more leisure is not lost. It's just waiting for us to decide that we want it, to believe that we deserve it, and to have the courage to build it. They say technology was supposed to set us free. So why are we all still working so hard? You've probably heard the predictions. Back in 1930, the great economist John Maynard Keynes imagined a future where, by our time, we'd only be working 15-hour weeks. Machines would do most of the labor, and our biggest problem would be figuring out what to do with all our free time. Fast forward to today, and that utopia feels, well, a little far off. For most of us, the 40-hour work week is still the standard, and many of us are working even longer. So, what happened? Let's start with a simple idea: the substitution effect. It sounds complex, but it's something we all do. As we earn more money per hour, our time becomes more valuable. So, we start to outsource the parts of our life that don't pay. Think about it. We order food delivery instead of cooking. We hire cleaning services or buy robot vacuums. We get our groceries brought to our door. Every minute we save on a chore is a minute we can spend on paid work, climbing the career ladder, or starting a side hustle. Every convenience we embrace creates a new job for someone else. It's a cycle. We work more to afford services that allow us to work even more. But it's not just about outsourcing chores. It's also about what we want. Every new invention, every leap in productivity doesn't just make our lives easier, it also creates new desires. When the first smartphones came out, they were a luxury. Now, can you imagine your life without one? Technology continuously expands the horizon of what's possible, and with it, our appetite for more. More comfort, more experiences, more things. We don't just want to keep up with our neighbors. We want the latest gadget, the exotic vacation we saw on Instagram, the next exciting experience. Our desires have grown right alongside our technological progress, and fulfilling those desires costs money. And how do we get that money? By working. So maybe the story isn't as simple as robots are taking our jobs. Perhaps the real reason we're still tethered to our desks has less to do with the machines and more to do with us. For many, a job is more than just a paycheck. It's a source of identity. When someone asks you, "What do?" You don't usually talk about your hobbies. You talk about your profession. Work gives us a sense of purpose, a community, a structure to our days. It can be challenging, rewarding, and even, at times, a form of addiction. We get hooked on the validation, the feeling of being needed, the forward momentum. The idea of stopping can feel like losing a part of ourselves. This brings us to a fascinating question. If, tomorrow, we could all work just 15 hours a week, what would we actually do with our time? Would we pursue our passions, learn new skills, and spend more time with loved ones? Or would we feel lost, bored, and anxious without the familiar rhythm of the daily grind? The promise of leisure is beautiful, but the reality might be more complicated. We've spent generations building a society centered around labor. Unlearning that might be the biggest challenge of all. Maybe the ultimate freedom isn't freedom from work itself, but the freedom to choose what our work means to us and how it fits into a life well lived. It's about finding a balance between ambition and contentment, between productivity and presence. As we stand on the cusp of even greater technological change, perhaps the most important question isn't, why are we still working? But, what are we truly working for? If you've been thinking about these questions too, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like and subscribing for more content that makes you think. See you in the next one.